So we're starting lying down. Like I said, we've got a particular, just make yourself warm. We are going to be moving, but I've just got a particular focus that I'd like us to start with. And bring your hands, so settle on your back, knees long, knees bent if you like, or legs long, and bring your hands onto your belly. And just settle down and maybe close your eyes. So we're going to have this focus today on our sort of jaw and our mouth and down through the front of our throat, through our chest to our belly. So this sort of midline of ourselves from the jaw to the belly. And at different points, we're going to come back to an awareness of these places. And the first thing I'd like you to do to start with is bringing your focus to your jaw. And a few times, just open and shut your mouth, a little bit like a goldfish, which means it's mainly the lower jaw coming down away from the upper jaw. So you open and shut your mouth, make that sort of fishy face. And just some of you who were here earlier, I was saying, just sort of note about noticing. You know, it's very easy for us to habitually hold tension in the jaw, the tongue, without us even being aware. So when you've done your fishy face a few times, I then want you to do a big sort of Cheshire cat type grin. So move the corners of your mouth away from each other and relax it. And maybe do that 3 times. So a big sort of cheesy grin. Hi, Sarah, we're just lying down with a little bit of awareness. I'll recap in a moment. Yeah, so your big Cheshire cat grin a few times and then relaxing your face. So Sarah, we've got this focus of awareness from our sort of jaw down through the throat and the chest to the belly. And we were focusing in on a little bit of releasing around the jaw and the mouth. And the third thing I'd like you to do is your tongue. And what I'd like you to do a few times is to bring the underside of your tongue to touch the roof of your mouth and then relax it. So you're sort of curling your tongue up. So you can touch the underside of your tongue to the roof of your mouth and then release your tongue. Okay. And then let those things go and come to a little bit of rolling your head from side to side on the floor and thinking about the front of the throat being soft. So Sharon, we've got this focus on sort of jaw down through the throat and the chest to the belly. Yeah, so just a couple more times, letting your head roll to the right and to the left, and keeping that feeling of the jaw and the tongue and the mouth and the lips being soft and relaxed. And also taking that sensation now down into the front of the throat. And if your hands are on your belly, you could let your head settle down now. And with your hands on your belly, just feel a couple of cycles of breath move through you. And bringing your awareness to your belly. You're thinking about the belly being soft and responsive to the breathing. And you're then going to, if your legs are long, bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And start to tilt your knees a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. So as you tilt your knees from side to side, and you can keep your hands on the belly for the moment or bring your hands onto the floor beside you. As you tilt your knees, just feel that you can let your belly stay soft and that your belly also sort of falls a little bit to the right and to the left. Good. And you could just pause in the center and take your feet a bit wider apart. So your feet are as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. And come back to, and this point, you might want to now have your arms on the floor beside you. Come back to tilting your knees. And when the feet are a bit wider, it's maybe more apparent that we can let our belly come along with this movement. So as our knees tilt one way, Obviously, the pelvis comes along, but we also feel that we can sort of let our belly also soften in that direction. We just, maybe hold possibility, even if it feels it doesn't really make sense in my body for my belly to come along in this movement, or maybe it does make perfect sense. You perhaps think about the belly being soft, the belly coming along with the rest of the movement. And if it's comfortable, you can let your knees come all the way down towards the floor on one side. And it might be that you need to slide a cushion under one of your knees. If you do, if you're here and you want a cushion, let me know. Maybe we need a cushion. I'm okay. Just speak if you'd like a cushion. Hannah, what's it like if you let your knees come down that way? Okay. Okay. Yeah, they're not necessarily going to get onto the floor. I think if they feel that they're hovering, yeah, does that one need something under it? It might be slightly better if that's the one that's, yeah. Is that better? Okay. Yes, I mean, sometimes you just don't know where you're going to encounter that. And you can have a couple of breaths with your knees going one way. And if you don't want that, just get rid of it. And then you can have a couple of your knees going the other way. And if you're staying in this twist, so your knees are now falling down to the other side, and the shoulder, the sort of opposite shoulder, if you let that shoulder be settled on the floor, and you could roll your head in the opposite direction to the knees. Good. So to help that shoulder settle on the ground. And just come back to a moment. So if you joined a little bit late, we've got this focus today, this sort of awareness of our jaw, our tongue, down through the front of the throat, down through the front of the chest to the belly. And just awareness of these parts of ourselves softening. So see if you can have this sense of this midline of yourself sort of softening, or just how does it feel when we have another breath or two in this second side of the twist. And whenever you want to come out, you're going to bring your knees back to the center, and you're going to fold your knees into your chest. And just, yeah, you can have a little rock from side to side if you like. That's nice. If you feel you want to take your legs up to the ceiling and give them a shake out, you can do. So at certain points during the class, I'm going to come back to this sort of awareness I've talked about, but it might be that you come back to it in your own time anyway. When you had a little bit of time with your knees folded into your chest, I'd like you to settle down with your feet on the floor. We're just going to do a little movement to the upper body. So knees, you can either have your knees bent and your feet on the floor, or you could lengthen your legs out. But what we're going to be doing now is we're not going to be moving the pelvis and legs. And you're going to do this movement we quite often do, where you're taking your arms up over your chest and you're making a circle with your arms and you're interlinking your fingers. So if you reach your arms up towards the ceiling, Hannah, that's it. But make a circle with your arms over your chest. So imagine you're holding a beach ball on your chest. That's it. And then you're going to start to rock across your upper back. So you're letting your head and your arms rock a little bit to the left and then a little bit to the right. And keep your circle circular. So if you're going a long way with this movement, you might find your circle is no longer very circular. So just notice that. And also notice your jaw and your tongue and that whole part, the front of the throat, and see if you can keep soft in those places. Notice how this feels in the upper back. So obviously we've got this focus of the front of the body, but this movement, particularly if you're feeling tight across the back of the shoulders, it can be really helpful. And then whenever you've had enough of this movement, you're going to pause in the center and you're going to sort of fold your arms around you. So you're crossing your elbows over your chest. That's it. So you're giving yourself a hug. And then at this point, bend your knees and bring your feet to stand on the floor. Siobhan, you could relax your elbows onto your chest a bit. That's it. Good. And now start to rock your elbows and your knees and your head all a little bit to the right and then all a little bit to the left. That's it. So you're rocking, that's very nice, side to side across the back of your body. Good. And it's really up to you with this movement, how far you go. So it could be a little rocking from side to side. It could be a big movement. And do this a few more times, particularly if it feels a nice movement, so that you're giving yourself a bit of a massage, if it feels enjoyable. So I was really thinking this morning before class, you know, why is it we do yoga? And I think, you know, very basic level, it's just that it can feel quite nice. We're doing things that feel nice. We're trying to keep it really simple. And that's the thing, we can get very complicated about why we do all these things. And I was thinking, actually, if we just think, actually, really simply, we just don't do things that feel good. And from here, you're going to, it's a good point, Siobhan. From here, you're going to let yourself rock all the way over onto one side. It might be good to come on the side where you can see me from, although lots of you know this. We're going to be coming onto our side, lengthening out into our side balancing movement of Anantasana. So you want to now be long. So some of you who joined early, we came onto our side and we had our knees folded. Now we're long on our side, and I've got my head propped up in my hands, but your bottom arm could be long on the ground and you could rest your head down, or you could bend your bottom arm and make a little pillow for your head. Your top hand can be on the floor in front of you, so that you could do a bit of rocking forward and back. And you sort of stand your hand on the floor in front of your chest. That's it. It just helps you be a bit more steady with. So just let yourself do a little bit of rocking forwards and back on the side of yourself. And this is just really help us settle down. And then you also might want to, I tend to come to my fingertips and then just look down the length of my body towards. And you should be able to see your toes and maybe the front half or third of your feet, but not your ankles. If you can see your ankles, your feet are too far forward. If you can't see your toes, your feet are too far back. And then from here, we'll move into tree pose in this top side of our body. So it's quite good to use your top hand to catch your foot, because then you have to take your hand off the floor, at least for a moment. Good. And just sort of see how that feels. How does it feel to settle in tree pose on your side, sinking that top foot heel, top leg heel into your bottom leg thigh. And then from there, you can fold your knee into your armpit on the top side of your body. And at that point, if you feel really wobbly, you can bend your bottom knee and slide that knee forwards on the ground. That will make you feel more steady. And the next thing you're going to do is lengthen your top leg out towards the ceiling. And you might catch your big toe, you might catch your trouser leg, or that's it, anywhere, just wherever you can catch your leg or your trouser, your ankle, around the back of your knee or your thigh. Have a few breaths there. If you bend your bottom knee, this might be the point at which you could try lengthening out your bottom leg too. You don't have to. Good. See if you can lengthen into both heels. So just this feeling that we're starting to wake up our bodies a little bit. So a little bit more of a stretching. And then from here, you can make your way back down, fold your knee in towards your armpit, come back through tree pose. And lengthen out that top leg, and maybe just have a moment on your side where your top arm is along the top side of your body. And just see how steady you feel. And from here, we're going to roll onto our belly for a moment and settle on your belly, perhaps one hand on top of the other and your forehead or your cheek resting on the back of your hand, giving your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. That's it. So it's not always the most comfortable place for all of us to settle, but it's a helpful place to be. So give your pelvis a wiggle if that helps you feel a bit more settled on your belly. And then I found it really interesting when I was doing this yesterday, to come back to that focus of awareness to the jaw and the tongue. Awareness through the front of the body, the front of the throat, down through your chest, down into your belly. Just how does it feel to, bring your attention to the front of your body. And Pano, if it doesn't look, the shoulder nearer the fireplace, would that arm be more comfortable down by your side? No, that's better. You've settled a bit more. Well done. So just have another breath or two, but with your awareness sort of through the front of your body, and particularly in that place sort of down from the jaws to the belly. Can you soften there? Good. Good. And whenever you like, you're going to roll onto your second side and come to settle on your second side and lengthen yourself out there. And so we do exactly the same thing on side two. So if we start long, obviously organizing your bottom arm, however you're going to support your head, whether you're propping your head up in your hand or whether your head's a bit lower down, resting on a long arm. And your top hand on the floor in front of you. So you can just do a little bit of rocking, forwards and back. That's nice. Just feeling the ground beneath the side of your body. Little by little, just sort of making the rocking smaller, settling down through the side of the body, maybe coming up onto your fingertips, looking down towards your feet. And then when you're ready, we'll move back through those same positions with the top leg. So coming into tree pose, then we use our top hand, take it off the floor to catch our ankle. Good. Breath or two in tree pose. How does that feel? And then on to folding the knee in towards the armpit. Remember, at this point, if you want to bend your bottom knee and slide it forwards on the floor, that's always an option. And then perhaps as you exhale, taking your top leg up towards the ceiling. Where can you catch your leg or your foot or your trouser leg? That's good. Yeah, that's a helpful place to support that leg. If you bent your bottom leg, now might be the time to lengthen it out, stretch into your heel. This is that feeling. Can we lengthen into both heels? Can we start to feel the legs are waking up a little bit? Good. Have a couple more breaths here. Obviously, there might be that feeling that we stretch into the heels and then we release them, relax the legs a little bit. But still keep them aware and alert. And then, yes, making your way down, knee to armpit, back through tree pose, back through two long legs. And you might be very pleased to hear from here, you're going to roll onto your back briefly. So roll on, roll onto your back. And just come back. Come onto your back. And put your hands onto your belly. And just settle there for a few breaths. And particularly come back again to that awareness, jaw, softening the jaw, relaxing the tongue, soften the front of the throat, down through the front of the chest to the belly. So sensing this sort of midline of ourselves, and can we allow this part of ourselves to soften and quieten. In a moment, we're going to make our way up into standing. So however you want to make your way into standing, and take your time. You can have a few more breaths on your back. If you want a few breaths on your side, you can do that. And yeah, just making your way into standing. Yeah, yes, socks coming off, Francis, is probably a good idea. Marie, how are we doing with the heating on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm warm.
You too warm?
Not too warm, I haven't taken my sweatshirt off yet.
Okay, well, we're going to start moving more. So if it gets too warm, then Pano obviously let me know it's up the windows. Obviously these things are not so used. Okay. I think it makes a big difference when the sun's out, doesn't it? So, are you cozy there, Jen? Okay, well, no, that's good. That's Yes, it is. And it's really, especially when the roof's clean, it's very nice stuff to come and. I love this plant in the corner there. Can you see that one there? That someone had dumped it out in the street, and then we rescued it. Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely lovely. So settle your feet down so they're a little distance apart, and I just want you to settle in standing. So for me, that would be a little bit of swaying from side to side. If you feel that you need a bit more movement, you could do the sort of swinging twist. We also are going to do this again in a moment, but if you come into standing and you feel, oh, I need to do a bit of swinging my arms, then yeah, that might be nice. Or again, it might just be that sort of settling. And I know that often when I come up into standing, it does take a little bit of time to fully arrive. And in fact, what we're going to do today is to start with some feet things to help us feel more that we're actually arrived in standing. So the first one is to bring one foot forwards a bit and tap the foot on the floor. And then you can tap your foot in a bit of a semi-circle. And obviously this can get a bit, active on the front of the ankle. So don't overdo it. You can swap onto the other foot. But the idea is just do this tapping of our foot on the floor. And then maybe everything else in our body can quieten down a bit. We just really feel the feet on the floor. Okay. Let's just come back to the first foot and do a little bit of, a couple more times, just a bit of tapping. Yes, and an interesting kind of that is the next one. So after tapping the fronts of our feet, we're then going to do the one where we lift our heels and we drop them onto the floor. So there's a number of ways you can do this. You can do a big slow thudding of your heels. You can do little very quickly. So particularly if you don't like this one, because it does give you this juddery feeling up through your body. If you don't like it, see, is there a way that you can do it that you make it a little bit more pleasant? So either it's maybe doing very slow ones, so you don't have to do very many, or maybe it's just doing a few little bouncy ones. Okay. And then perhaps give each leg a shake out. Good. Oh yes, please help yourself in water, Jan. Okay, and then you've given your legs a shake out. Just one more foot thing. I'm holding onto the wall here and do if you need to, which is just come onto the top of each foot. So if you do need to bring your fingers onto the wall. And perhaps do this twice on each side. So come onto the top of one foot, come onto the top of the other foot. So you feel you're stretching out front of your ankles. You can straighten your knees, you do this. You can try that. I often get a bit crampy in my foot if I do that. So yes, you get that as well. So yeah, if you get, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So you might want to do this and not straighten your knee, if that still gives you that stretch through the front of the ankle. Good. Okay. And then we're just going to do a couple of feet things, which we do one foot at a time, a bit like the tapping of the feet. So just choose one foot. You don't need to move it forwards, and start by a bit of rolling onto the outside edge of that foot. So we can roll onto the outside. I'm just reminding myself, yes, we can roll onto the outside edge of the foot. That's one thing we can do. And then with that's it, yeah. And then the other thing we can do is come up onto the ball of the foot and roll across the ball of the foot. Good. I always find it cheers me up to do some feet things. Focusing. Okay, and then we can do the same things on the other foot. So rolling onto the outside edge of the foot and rolling across the ball of the foot. And you can mix those up a little bit. You could do a bit of rolling across the ball of the foot, a bit of rolling onto the outside edge of the foot. You're right, Dan, did you get yourself? Oh, okay. Okay, that's all right, don't worry. Okay, so perhaps after doing those things, just give your little shake out. And then we're going to come into quite a simple standing balance, just to see how it feels to bring our weight of our feet. Before we do that, just set those feet on the floor. maybe then, I was looking at my feet, so you can look at your feet, then maybe stop looking at your feet, maybe close your eyes. Perhaps just do a little bit of swaying from side to side. And as you're doing this, you could choose which foot you'd like to stand on. So is there a foot and leg you feel more drawn to standing on? And you're going to bring your hands into prayer pose in front of your chest. And so at this point, you might want to open your eyes because we're going to be bringing ourselves into balance on our chosen leg and foot. And all you're going to do with the other leg is bring that foot to stand on the foot that you're balancing on. So this is simple, but simple doesn't necessarily mean easy. Now, if you're balancing and then you get this sort of, sometimes I think, oh, it would be nice to just feel really long and tall. So if you like, you could then see what's it like to grow your arms up towards the ceiling, keeping the shoulders soft. And if you do that and you think, okay, I preferred having my hands in prayer pose, you could bring your hands back to prayer pose. Let's see if we can have another, that's it, breath or two or three. Good. Lovely. And then come down, have a little shake out of arms and legs. Very nice. And then just again, start by looking down at your feet, settling your feet. Stop looking at your feet. You might think about bringing your, finding a point to focus your gaze on. Bringing your hands into prayer pose. Shifting your weight onto the other leg. So the foot we just stood on comes to stand on the other foot. And just see, how does it feel on side two? Let the breath come in, let the breath leave. If you have that impulse to take your arms up, then definitely follow that. It's interesting, isn't it? Because if we chose to stand on our easier leg first, we might feel less of the impulse to take the arms up. We can always try, what does it feel like to take the arms up? Keeping the shoulders soft. And then we can always come back to prayer pose. Good. See if we can have another breath or two or three. Very nice. Come down, have a little bit of a shake out. And actually now was when I was thinking I would, after that sort of control of the balance, just come to loose, easy swing twist. Yes, Jan, make them find some space. Yes. Okay. So a few more times swinging your arms. And we're going to be now moving into a sequence coming from the back of our mat. And I suppose a particular focus here, we've got this focus on sort of the jaw through to the belly. And we're actually now just going to think about creating some space through the fronts of ourselves. So if you've swung your arms enough, if you come to the back of your mat and bring your hands into prayer pose, and just take a moment to settle your feet on the floor, to let the breath come in. And as you exhale, if you've got space to take your arms down, I think you will do down and then up. Feel long and tall. And then as you exhale, gathering your elbows in, rolling down into a forward bend. Breath or two in your forward bend, and then on into dog pose. So Lynn, just really sort of noticing, how does this feel through that tight side? So yes, forward bend, dog pose. Just see how that dog pose feels. A few breaths there. And from dog pose, we're going to be coming down onto hands and knees. So coming to settle yourself on hands and knees. And the first thing we're going to do on hands and knees is a bit of tail wagging. So yes, imagining you have a tail and wagging your tail from side to side. And we could do this, so we can try that, and then we could also try these other ways we can do our tail wagging. So we could let one leg come out to the side, slide our foot out to the side and look towards that foot. And repeat that a few times. So Hannah, if you let your leg come out and then look towards the foot and then it goes back, and then you look towards your foot again, that's it. And if you look towards your foot around the outside of your arm, see how that's it, yeah. So you can do that a few times on one side, you can do that a few times on the other side. And you can also take both legs to the side and look towards them. And then both legs to the other side. Actually, Penny, you look like you need your hands a bit closer to your knees, actually. You look too long, yeah. Interesting, yeah. So usually that is the case when we're using like side bending movements. Usually one side of us is going to be tighter than the other. The other thing I'd like you to do here is some cat movements. So a bit of rounding your back to the ceiling, a bit of dipping your spine down to the floor. Good. Yeah, you still look like you're quite long there, actually, Penny, but it might be your wrist. So don't over shorten if that's Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter too much, but I think there's more, your lower back is more like to dig. It's rounding and dipping. What I'd like you to round your back to the ceiling, stay rounded and rock your hips back over your heels and come into child pose and just come to a couple of quiet breaths in child pose. I think I might turn the heating off for the moment, actually, because I think we're going to actually get, Penny, let me know if you start to get cold. What's it like if you untuck your toes and just have your feet flat? Is that okay? Good. Okay, good. So in your child pose, you're going to slide your hands forwards on the floor so your elbows come off the ground. And then if you come back up onto hands and knees, you should be in a long hands and knees pattern like you were before. So just have a look at your hands and your knees. So have your hands shoulder width apart and your knees hip width apart. And you're just going to start to do a little bit of rocking your weight forwards. So heading towards face up dog, but in a very easy way. So you're not necessarily going all the way to face up dog. You're just, you're just taking it easy. Unless this feels really easy for you. So if it feels really easy to rock all the way into face up dog, of course you could do that. But otherwise, just not pushing it, because we will come back to this. And whenever you need to take a little break and to take the weight off your hands and your wrists, come back and sit into kneeling. Yeah, come back and sit into kneeling. And if that's okay from your kneeling, you're just going to go back a little bit in kneeling. So how does it feel to let your pelvis tuck under? So we're stretching a little bit through the thighs. Now, for some of you, it might be better to be sitting in between your heels to go back in this way. Some of us, it's better to be on our heels. So just a little bit of going back. Feeling open through the front of the body. And then we'll come back onto hands and knees. We'll come back through dog pose and a forward bend. We'll roll up into standing. And at that point, when you're coming back into standing, if you want to go into a standing back arch, you could do a little back arch. So hands and knees, tucking the toes under, exhaling, coming into dog pose. And letting your head go, give yourself a few breaths in dog. So dog can feel quite different when we come into it from the ground rather than from a forward bend. So just, let yourself inhabit your dog pose for a few cycles of breath. And then you can walk your hands in towards your feet, arrive back in your forward bend. As Marie, you might need to come away from the wall a bit. And you can touch the backs of your hands together. So as you exhale, you're rolling up into standing. You're taking your arms up to the ceiling. And if you like, very much, probably not for you, Lynn, if you like, you can let your gaze come up and your pelvis forwards into a little standing back arch. And then bring your hands back in front of you, back into prayer pose. I mean, Lynn, you can do it if you want to, but I think you probably, with your back things, you might not want to. Okay, so we're going to go back down. So let a breath come in. As you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Feel long and tall. And then as you exhale, you can gather your arms in and down into a forward bend. A couple of breaths in your forward bend and then on into dog pose when you're ready. Walking your hands forward. Good. Just see, so we're coming into our third dog pose now. See how it feels. Maybe things are starting to ease out. From dog pose, we're going to come into, well, you've got two choices. We're going to come into lunge. You could do it straight from dog, or you could do it by coming down onto hands and knees. So if you've got any, concerns around backs or shoulders, it might be better to come onto hands and knees. And step 1 foot forward, doesn't matter which, we'll do both sides. And in dog pose, in lunge, just come back to that awareness of your sort of jaw down through the front of your body to your belly. And I think you could then walk your foot a bit more out to the side, so your hands come onto the inside of that front foot. That's it. And you could be resting onto your hands or your knuckles. That toe tucked under, and just, that awareness through the front of your body. Can we think about softening, particularly in the jaw? In lunge, we can often quite grip our teeth until it's over. If you want to make it a little bit more intense, you could tuck your toes under, let your back knee come off the ground, and you're resting through your arms a bit more there. And if you try that and you think, oh, that's enough, or you don't have to try that, can come back down out of it. Good. Good. Okay, and then you might just like to ease back out of your lunge before you do the other side. So you could untuck your back toe, ease back. And then swap sides when you're ready. So you've got your other foot in front in lunge. Yes, and if you want to go through dog pose, that's absolutely fine. So you've got your other foot in front in lunge. And I suppose the good starting point is to make sure that your knee is over your heel. And then if you like, you could do that walking your foot out to the side. So then that we bring our hands onto the inside of our front foot. And I suppose when I was doing this yesterday, I was just thinking, well, I think I can perhaps soften a bit more through the front of my body when my knee's out to the side and there's a bit more space in the front. So think about the jaw softening down through the front of your throat and your chest to your belly. You could, if you want to, tuck your back toe under, let your back knee come off the ground. Can you still soften through the jaw, the throat? Good. Obviously, maybe don't stay there too long. Let your back knee come back down. When you want to ease out of your lunge, you untuck that back toe, you ease back. There you go. Yes, and then just like we did on the other side, just before we come back into dog pose, because we did take some weight into our hands, come back through your kneeling and come back to that sort of moving back a little bit in kneeling. Or again, if you prefer to down in between your heels, the Virasana. So just a little bit of being in kneeling. If kneeling's hard, you could always not be, be a bit more supportive for your hands, but Marie, see if you get your pelvis to tuck under. That's very nice. Yeah, I was just thinking you can do that one, can't you, where your pelvis lifts, but then you're not giving your hands much of a break. Okay, and then come back onto hands and knees. What I forgot to say this time is come back onto hands and knees. Maybe give each leg a little lengthen out behind you. because you're then going to come into plank pose and then dog pose and then a forward bend. So make sure you're settled with your shoulders over your wrists. Lengthen one leg out behind you, tuck your toes under, and add the other leg in so you're in your plank pose. Don't have to stay that long in plank. I'll have a little look at people. That's it, Pano. I think again your hands are a bit far forward for your plank. Yes, and then look towards your fingertips rather than back. That's good. That's good. That's it. Yes, and then into dog pose. Don't stay too long in plank. Into dog. It might feel like a long dog, so you might want to walk your feet in a little bit. Good. Have a breath or two there, and then from dog, walking your hands in towards your feet. So you end up in your forward bend again. You can have a breath or two in your forward bend, and then we roll back up into standing. We can touch the backs of the hands together. We can trail the hands up the front of our body, up towards the ceiling, coming into a little standing back arch if you like. Remember, the pelvis comes forward, our gaze comes up, but we don't do that if our lower back isn't so happy. Good. We're going to come back through the sequence with something different in the middle one more time. Have a drink of water if you need to, and then settle down with your hands in prayer pose. So once more. So when you're ready, from the hands being in prayer pose, feet a little distance apart, let a breath come in. Exhale, take the arms down and then up. Feel long and tall here. And then exhaling, folding forwards, gathering your elbows in, down into your forward bend. If the forward bend feels nice, stay there for a few breaths. And when you feel ready, take your hands forwards into dog pose, walking your hands into dog. Good. That's it. And again, just see how dog pose feels. That's it. So forward bend, dog pose, and then down onto hands and knees. And then the forward bend and dog pose are getting too much for you. Just come down onto hands and knees in a way that, a way that works. So on hands and knees, I would like you to come back to your tail wagging movement, not moving your legs this time, just the side movement of the pelvis. And then doing your side to side movement of your pelvis, you're going to start to go back into child pose, moving your pelvis back. And at this point, you could slide your hands a little bit further forward and then start to move your pelvis side to side. Take yourself forwards to face up dog. Penny, that's good. I was going to say you might want your hands a little bit wider apart. So I'd just like you to use this side to side movement of your pelvis to take you forwards into face up dog and backwards into child pose. And you could maybe just do that 3 times. And whenever you like, you can stay back in child for a couple of breaths. So yeah, so perhaps 3 times or so, sort of forwards and back, child pose to face up dog using your tail wagging movements. And then let yourself have a couple of quiet breaths in child pose where you take the weight off your hands. Because then what we'll do now is you do our cat movement. So we'll take our cat movement into face up dog. So when you've had a couple of breaths in child pose, come back onto hands and knees. And come to your cat movement. So rounding your back to the ceiling, dipping your spine down to the floor. And so from your rounded up cat, we're going to move into face up dog. So you're going to round your back to the ceiling, tuck your toes under, rock your hips back over your heels. So stay rounded, stay looking back at your feet. And then walk your hands a little bit further forwards on the floor. That's it. And then as you exhale, you're going to travel forward, but round your back. So keep looking back towards your pelvis as you travel forwards into face up dog. You might need your hands a little bit further forward, Hannah. That's it. Good. Untuck your toes and then see if you can reverse that movement. Rock back, round back, tuck your toes under all the way back. Let the breath come in and then travel forwards again. So rounding your back to travel forwards into face up dog. And then once your shoulders are over your hands, untuck your toes. You could do that 3 times. And then just, if all, only 2 times if your arms have had enough. Good. And you're going to end up in child. When you feel that you've had enough face up dog, just end up in child pose. Settling yourself down in child. Good. So in child pose, we're going to settle and we're going to come back to this focus of this sort of midline through the front of our body, from our jaw down to our belly. And I think it's quite interesting to focus on this in child pose. Because we often focus on our back in child pose. So being aware of your jaw and softening the jaw. Be aware of the front of your throat, the front of your chest and your belly. And this whole sort of midline through the front of ourselves has to curl up in child pose. And the softening here helps with that sort of curling up and folding in. And so it's up to you here. We're going to make our way back into standing in a moment. You can have a few more breaths in child. I'd like you to come into dog pose in your own time, unless you've had enough of that, Lynn. Don't, maybe you just do child and then come up into standing. In dog pose, I'd like you to just have that same awareness of jaw, throat, down through the chest to the belly. So come into dog pose, and how does it feel to bring your attention to that sort of that front part of yourself, that midline. Good. And yes, from your dog pose, you're making your way through a forward bend and back into standing. Good. And then rolling up into standing. And what I'd like us to do in standing is just to revisit a balance that we were working with last week. And Jan, you've worked with a lot, so you're getting to be an expert with this. So with your feet a little distance apart, you're going to step 1 foot forward. And just do a little bit of rocking our weight forwards and back. So it may be that you've been here the last week or 2 and that you've worked with this balance a bit, and it may be that you haven't worked with it with me. So just, you know, just see how you get on. And always when we're doing balances, we might as well have the expectation we're going to be wobbly, and then that might make it all a bit more relaxing. Okay, so we'll rock our weight forwards and back. Now settle your feet down. So quite often in this one, I would say make sure your feet are both pointing forward. And then we'd swing our arms and we'd try not to move our pelvis. Okay, but today we're going to do a bit differently. We're going to swing our arms towards our back leg, and we are going to move our pelvis. And if we let our pelvis move, we probably then want to let our back foot turn out, yeah? To make that back knee comfortable. So I'd like you to end up so that you are turn towards your back leg and your pelvis is turning towards your back leg. And at this point, I sometimes then give myself a little bit more space between my feet. So I sort of return towards the back leg, the back foot's turned out. I'm going to bend the front knee and bring the arms up to shoulder height. And at this point, you're just trying to feel really wide and spacious through the front of your body. So I often have this image of like a big sail here, but the other thing is a big full moon, because from here, we're going to move towards half moon pose. But maybe try and feel like a big moon. So you're just shifting your weight onto your front foot. And then we're trying to keep the arms wide and we're trying to tip forward. So there's, yeah, you may feel very wobbly, so don't worry. You may go a little way, might come back up again. So it's quite good just to, yeah, sort of touch on it, come back up and perhaps try again and start, you know, your starting point is these arms being really wide, feeling like this great big silvery moon. And then can you keep this wide, expansive feeling as you tip forward? And of course, there are going to be some wobbles. Might be that, yeah, very nice. Yes, very nice, Marie. Lovely. Well done. Good. Yeah, it looks really, really nice. Okay. Well done. Well done. That's fabulous. Let's just have a little shake out and try the other side. So the same thing, come and step the other foot forwards and a little bit of shifting your weight forwards and back. And again, just thinking, okay, we know what we're doing this now. Some of you knew what you were doing anyway. We've been doing this recently. So perhaps again, your starting point is settle down with both feet pointing forward. Think about your pelvis not moving and swing your arms a few times, which we often do. So this is to get our upper body, our spine and our shoulders moving. But today we want to now swing our arms towards our back leg and let the pelvis move. Let the back foot turn out. That's it. So that we've got this feeling of our pelvis facing to the side. We can bring our arms up to shoulder height. Yes, at this point, sometimes I would step my front foot forwards. It depends. You don't want too big a stride, otherwise it makes it harder to get your weight onto your front foot. And then this feeling of being big and wide, like a moon. I say a sail, it's obviously a sail on a sailing boat. And then this, can we tip forward? Can we tip forward? Might be that your middle finger, does depend a bit on how long your legs are, your middle finger might touch the floor. So you could let that arm come down towards the floor then, Siobhan, because you've got long legs, but you've also, yeah, so no, it might well not be the case, but yeah, I think it's, yeah, there's definitely a proportional thing. So if you've got long legs and long arms, yeah. Yeah. So try a couple of times. So obviously come back, settle your feet, have this feeling of your pelvis open to the side, this feeling of just being this huge expansion. Ah, where does your gaze go? See, my gaze sort of stays out to the side. Yeah, stays forwards. And I think maybe that's a helpful thing with going into it this way, because my gaze is forwards, but down on the floor forwards, like a 2 or 3 meters ahead. So it doesn't have to change that much. So, oh. Okay, have a little, quite heating, yes. Have a little shake out. It might be nice just to come into sort of a quiet forward bend. If you're feeling that you want to do a little bit more of that, you can do. A little bit of quiet forward bend. Yeah. Ah, yes, when I say forwards, I'm thinking forwards where my head is facing. So I'm not looking towards that foot. I'm looking, yeah, I'm looking in the same direction my pelvis is facing, a couple of meters ahead. So it's, I don't know when you've got a wall in front of you. Yeah. Yes, a little, sorry, we get distracted. A little forward bend if you'd like a forward bend, a bit more half moon pose. Yeah, so it is quite good, I think, to keep coming back to it. It might seem a bit challenging. Well done, Hannah, though. Having not done that with one. Yeah, it will feel pretty wobbly. Middle finger, that's it. Yes, middle finger. Well done. When you've done a bit of a forward bend, we're going to come down and we're going to sit. And it could be, we're going to sit in cobbler pose and legs wide. You could have your back against a wall or a sofa. So just, yeah, make that choice. We're going to do a little bit of, so you could sit in the room or you could have your back. So you could have your back against that sofa panel. If you moved your mat against the sofa, we're going to have, yeah, after that, we're going to sit. But yes, I think that part of doing those balances is you have to just accept there's going to be lots of wobbles. And then I think if you think, okay, that's just part of it. And then, yes. Yeah, and I suppose maybe it's that trying to, you know, keep a bit of control. You can make it. So coming into cobbler pose, either in the room or with your back against the wall. And we're going to just settle here, and then we're going to do 3 cycles of our humming breath. So I was talking with some other yoga teachers on Friday, and my big, you know, what breathing practices can we do this is sort of safe at the moment? And humming breath, we've got our mouth shut, we're humming in the back of our throat. So this seems to be quite a good one. And obviously that long breath can help us sort of quieten, particularly down through this whole jaw to belly area. So if you settle with your hands resting somewhere comfortably on your legs, we'll have 3 cycles of humming breath in cobbler pose, and then we'll take our legs wide. So you might like to close your eyes and let a breath come in. And again, let the breath come in. And one last time. And just have a quiet breath or two in cobbler pose. And then whenever you're ready, you're going to take your legs long and wide. You don't have to take them really, really wide. It might be quite nice to take them sort of wide-ish to start with, give them a bit of a roll. And then, you know, if you find wide is not so comfy, yes, and if you're in the room, Rosie, it's really nice if you're sitting away from the wall, or if you want to come away from the wall for a little bit, it's really nice to do some bit of side to side movements. And then when we come in a moment to do the humming breath, if it's more comfortable, bring your legs a bit closer together, then that might be good. So Ginny's being very cute there, Sharon. So yeah, settling down. It might be nice now if, let me see, yes, if you bring your back towards the wall, and if you want to have your legs not quite so wide, and we'll come to our 3 cycles of humming breath. And again, just, you know, noticing how we feel through that sort of midline of our body, jaw to belly. So rest your hands somewhere comfortable. Let the breath come in. Perhaps with the next two humming breaths, we could just really focus on the shoulders falling away from the ears. So let the breath come in. And last time. If you'd like to have a few more quiet breaths in sitting, you could do. Otherwise, you're going to make your way to lying down. And make sure you're going to be warm enough. Yes, ease your legs out of being wide. Would you like a blanket? Are you okay? The window's okay. Anyone else with a blanket? You okay? Siobhan, you right there? Yeah, so just make your way into lying. We'll do a couple of very simple movements. So if you settle down when you arrive on your back with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. Are you okay there, Jan? Do you want a blanket? You're right. So let yourself arrive on your back. And when you're ready, just let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left and make this movement really easy and lazy. That's it. There's all the time in the world just to let your head roll to one side and then roll to the other side. As you do this, let the front of your throat be soft. Let your jaw, your tongue be soft and relaxed. And from rolling your head, find a place where you can settle the center of the back of your head on the floor. And then if your legs are long, just bend your knees for a moment, stand your feet on the floor, and come to tilting your knees to the right and to the left. And you can keep this movement small or you can make it bigger. Just see if you can find a movement that feels good for you right now. Enjoyable. Talking about earlier on, you can just do something that feels nice. It makes us feel peaceful. Happy. You can tilt your knees a couple more times if you like, and then just settling down. And it might be nice to just see, it might not be for you, but then even if you lengthen your legs out for a couple of breaths, and then just see how it feels. And then it might not be for you now. It might be nice for you to lie with your legs up on the bed, possibly. Yes, that's it. You could do that. You could just see, how does it feel to lengthen your legs out on the ground? How does it feel to feel sort of open through the front of your pelvis and your hip joints? And then if you know that you're more comfortable with your knees bent, that's it. So then you might want to, I don't know, you might need to be slightly nearer to the bed. You might want to shuffle in a little bit. If you're comfy there, then don't move. But yeah, I would say be a little bit nearer. Good. Okay. And you could bring your hands onto your belly. And let's just finish with that awareness of the sort of softening through the midline of ourselves, from our jaw and our tongue down through the throat, down through the chest to the belly. We could imagine the flow of our breath through these points along this midline. Thank you very much, everyone. You don't need to move unless you need to go. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Love. Bye. See you soon, Rosie. Lynn, I hope were you finding the forward bends and dog pose were too much? Hold on. If you unmute yourself. Bye. Bye. Second. You're still muted. You're muted.
Sorry, Kara, real quick, what time would you like?
Sorry, much better.
Oh, did we say half? Did we say 11:30? Is that? Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. Bye. But better. Okay.
Just what I needed, actually. Yeah, and I stopped doing some things when I needed to, but it was lovely.
Yeah.
Really good. Thank you. And the
So
sound is
was
much
it
better.
the forward bend? Oh, good. Good. That's the sound's better. Oh, good.
Much better.
So when was it the forward bends and dog pose that got a bit too much for you at one point when you decided to stay standing up?
I just wanted to do it slowly.
Yes. Okay.
For weeks. So yes, I just wanted to take it slowly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really needed.
Yeah. Very.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
Sarah.
That's great. All right. Lovely to see you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.